Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Toon review. After our day off yesterday, we're back here tonight with a show about the potential next director of football at Newcastle United. We've done shows on, I think, 3 now, Stato. We've done shows on already.
We've done Mitchell, have indeed, yeah,
and a couple of others. And this one's about Dougie Freedman, the Crystal Palace technical director, I believe he is at the minute. But before we get into all that stuff, please give that thumbs up a smack, give us a like. And that'll really help us in the search engine of YouTube and share us with like-minded fans. And then also subscribe if you haven't done already. We're well on the way to 29,000 at the minute. Memberships are also available by clicking the join button, and super chats too by clicking on the $ and contribute whatever you feel we're worth. If you think we are in it at all, really. How are you, Stato?
Yeah, very well. Very well. There's some weird stuff going on in all the NUFC news. Few people who kind of do media stuff / YouTube stuff whinging about all the stadium news, which I find a bit odd. I generally see it as a net positive that we're looking like we're not going to move stadiums. That's thrown me a little bit because I thought the general consensus was most people understood that we may needed to move if we want to do a big stadium. However, everybody generally wanted to stay where we were. So I'm a bit shocked to see a couple of people come out against that. Surprised me a little bit.
I do wonder if it's kind of one of the grounds for the Euros, isn't it? Is that the next Euros in 28, is it? Maybe something to do with that. I mean, maybe they didn't time to build a stadium in that time. I don't know. I'm surmising here. But yeah, I'd much rather stay at St James's Park and build upon what we've got. Absolutely, definitely. Some comments we'll read. Chris says, am I first? You are indeed, mate. Yeah, 7 minutes past 6 you put your comment in. That is really, really dedicated. He also says, whoa, get in. I've never been first. Well, I'm sure your wife loves you. Even also says, Peel O'Keefe, hope you're well. Free Bar Steve, this is a great comment. With no shows yesterday, I generally felt lost. I must have checked several times through the day to make sure I hadn't missed anything. I really need to get a life. Absolutely not.
We would do shows every day. It's just, we've all got jobs and stuff to do. So I think we did shows last week all the way through to Sunday, and we just thought, we need a day off.
We need to recharge our batteries, don't we? At a certain time. As Tom's saying, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all well. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Ruffiad Benition, another mod, says, good evening, everybody. Anyone see Southgate's interview today with NUFC TV? I haven't. I wonder what went on in there. Any ideas, Stato?
With what? Sorry, I was reading other comments.
Gareth Southgate doing an interview with NUFC TV today, apparently.
He did, yeah. I'm 50-50 about that. On the one hand, England manager, I guess it's good for kind of getting us out there. On the other hand, he's an ex-Middlesbrough manager and player who most of the country don't think is suitable for the job anymore. So, I guess it's just we've got to kind of sometimes do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, Tom said anything interesting in it because I hadn't seen it. And the Ruffiad Benition says, just a one-liner, Tom, that sounded interesting about there will be Newcastle players, plural, involved in the game at St James's Park. Could be being diplomatic, but Callum Wilson involved. I'm going to say Trippier and Gordon, to be honest. I don't think Wilson gets in. Asked about the higher number of English players at Newcastle. He said it was different and mentioned Tino, Hall, Anderson as players involved or will be involved in junior teams as well as Trips and Gordon. So there you go. That's kind of it. And Tom says that would be interesting because Scotland are sniffing around Elliot Anderson, aren't they? But we don't want him to pay for Scotland, do we? So absolutely not.
Not at all, no. He was born in the Northeast to play for England. Same as what Paul Dummett should have done, in my opinion.
Although would never have done, clearly.
I feel like I just feel like it's one of those where, again, I can't talk because I'm not in a position to be able to play for my country in any sport. But it's you play for your country first, surely.
Yeah, you'd think so. But I mean, if there's no chance you play, I mean, I'm not being disrespectful to Paul Dummett here, but would there have been any chance when he was a kid of him playing for England? I mean, he has got Welsh heritage as well, so. I mean, it's like the players that had no chance of playing for Ireland years ago and for England years ago and went to play for Ireland, isn't it? I guess some international football is better than none.
But, yeah, but it's like me being born in the Isle of Man. If there was a national team recognised by FIFA, which there isn't, there's a few other accredited federations that they've got in. I still wouldn't do that because my allegiance is with the England national team. I've followed England since I was a little boy at school. We'd all come in for the World Cup games and stuff with spray paint on our face and hair, and I would only ever play for England if I had the opportunity to. I wouldn't play for anybody else.
No, I don't think I would either. But yeah, that's that then. Tonight we're going to be looking at Dougie Freedman. He's done a good job at Palace, hasn't he, Stato? I mean, if you look at kind of the players he's brought in, the players that are there, he's got a very good record, hasn't he?
He has indeed. I mean, it's not the first stint he's been there. He was there as a manager. Didn't quite go particularly well. Although his first stint, I will point people to, so I've taken a lot of information today from The Athletic, from Matt Woosnam, who's the Palace writer for The Athletic. He's done a couple of fantastic articles about Dougie Freedman. So I would recommend reading some of his stuff because it's really, really good. But he references Steve Parish's relationship with him initially, stating that he taught me so much so quickly about the game when I came into it, and he felt responsible for him leaving as well. And he actually went on the High Performance podcast, Steve Parish did, and stated that Freedman was the number one person he'd hired in the 13 years being in charge at Palace at the time of that interview. So a lot of people speaking very highly of him.
Yeah, I mean, he played for Palace as well, didn't he? So,
He did. I mean, I've got his playing career here if you want to go for it.
He kept repeating. He kept going back there, didn't he, if I remember rightly?
So, 1994, QPR to Barnet, free transfer. Barnet to Palace in 95. Then Palace to Wolves in 98. Wolves to Forest in 98, which is a funny one.
Well, that was the relegation year, wasn't it? When Ron Atkinson was in charge of Forest.
Oh, yeah, of course. Forest to Palace, again, the year 2000 for 750. So he's always dropping around that million mark. And then 8 years later, Palace to Leeds for 800k. And then he went back to Palace again. And then 2008, end of that, he went to Southend United, played there for a couple of years, and then he retired. So, yeah, 3 stints at Palace in his playing career.
Yeah, Cass says Southgate was up here to visit Sir Bobby's cancer unit at the Freeman. So good on him for that. England manager going to another England manager's kind of legacy, I guess, in the cancer treatment in the northeast in Newcastle. So you've got to give Southgate a bit of kudos for that, I guess. So kept returning to Palace as a player. I remember him at Palace. I remember him at Forest. He went to Leeds when they were in League One. He didn't really sell at any club. I can remember him at Wolves as well, actually, and Forest, but didn't really settle anywhere, did he? 2 caps for Scotland, also. Yeah. So he wasn't a bad striker. He was a bit like Paul Dickoff, but a Poundland version of him, if you like. He was a very nippy, gritty type striker. I'm going to say a typical Scottish striker, a bit like Charlie Nicholas, that diminutive type figure that would never give up. I mean, Charlie Nicholas wasn't really like that, but in the size-wise, he was. Not a bad player at all, but not a top of Premier League player. He was a bottom Premier League player, Championship player, very good Championship player. Not bad at all. Dougie it's pronounced, not Dougie. We call him Dougie. It's Dougie. Scots Dougs are well known as. What we've got here? Thank you, ever donated a membership on a previous stream. I've only just noted. Well, there you go, Carl. I can't remember who it was. Anthony says, all have managed some athletic competitions. Give it a shot, Alex. But it won't be in cycling. Yeah. It won't be in cycling. That's for certain.
No, they're very good at cycling.
No,
they're still classed as GB. So,
yeah, unless it's the Commonwealth Games, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Cavendish and Peter Kenyuk were 2 fantastic kind of cyclists. I don't think Cav's still going, isn't he? All of an Olympics team, Alex. How's your 100-meter dash?
Not that good, unfortunately.
Where is Palace in the table? Not sure this one will be good, to be honest. Well, Trolls, you've got to look at it in the big picture. Stato, explain.
Crystal Palace's annual wage bill is 12th in the Premier League, marginally as well. They're kind of in that bracket between sort of 16th and 12th. So you could argue that they're overperforming. In recent seasons, they've managed to do some decent player recruitment, but obviously they've had a bit of a wobble with managers. They had to keep bringing Hodgson back in until they could get a decent, fresh name in that was going to play some more progressive football. You know, in the last few years, well, I mean, to be fair, since they've been promoted, you've got to consider the size of the club and the wages and the money available. Since they got promoted, they've finished 11th, 10th, 15th, 14th, 11th, 12th, 14th, 14th, 12th, 11th. So somewhere between 11th and 15th. They've peaked a bit more in the last couple of years with 12th and 11th. They're playing better football, as we are very well aware of at the moment, because they beat us. Where are we in comparison at the moment? So we're 9th on the wage bill currently. Well, as far as we're aware, there is potential for that to be a little bit higher. West Ham and Villa are above us. Manchester United are first, which is hilarious considering they don't finish anywhere near first. So yeah, Palace kind of down where they should be, but they're playing good football. They've recruited well, and it's hard when you've got that kind of club set up. Like, how are you supposed to kick on? Villa have kicked on because of money. Brighton, despite selling all the talent under the sun, are still kind of mid-table. Let's not forget that. It's hard. It's really hard when other clubs are spending 500 million and £1 billion. It's so hard to close that gap. It doesn't mean he's not a good. He wouldn't be good in a. Well, he's a sporting director at the moment. We would potentially hire him as a sporting director or a technical director, something of that capacity.
Yeah. Just off topic a minute. Bob asked you a question. Stats a yes or no answer. Are the new financial rules good or bad for us? I have no idea anymore.
Technically, they are good for us, this whole anchoring stuff, because it's going to limit to a point what some of the big six can do, because it's kind of pinned and connected to what the bottom club are doing, TV revenue wise. It means that the top few are kind of capped a bit more. It's going to, dare I say it, that the horse has already bolted, but it's going to stop it from lapping everyone. I guess that's probably the best analogy. Obviously, the horse has already bolted. It bolted long ago, but it's going to stop people. It's going to stop it getting silly. You've seen how it is in the last couple of years. Everyone's getting three to £500,000 a week contracts at the big clubs. You get Chelsea just dropping £1 billion. It's gone a bit mad. This can kind of stop it a little bit. It's going to reduce it. It's going to reduce the top few clubs by a couple of $100 million spend. Well, just overall. They've got to factor in everything. So it doesn't really change us too much, I don't think. It might give us a little bit more wiggle room, a tiny bit. But it's just going to help. It's going to indirectly help by meaning some of the top clubs can't just go mad or as mad as they've been going.
And as a follow-on, Looney Toon asks, why are Villa voting against the spending cap? I understand the cartel vote against it.
Well, it just means that they're
expecting Champions League money next year, I guess, aren't they? Maybe that's got something to do with it.
I don't think they'd lose out on that, though.
No, but they would have to spend it, would they? As much of it, maybe.
Well, they would, because I don't think they'd be getting enough.
No, that was qualified. You'd think
some people have said 4 times. Again, Anthony's just said 4 times the revenue from the bottom club. Some people have said 5 times. Some people have said X amount of times. It keeps. I'm not even sure what the exact thing is anymore. But you would imagine if for them to vote against it, it kind of reduces, to a point. That's the only reason they would have gone against it. Surely, you would imagine. So.
Yeah. It's better if you're not in Europe unless it's Champions League. Well, another question. News today that Manchester United have put the entire squad up for sale, except for Mainu, Garnacho, and I can't remember who the other one was. Hoyland, isn't it? Yeah. Right. They will accept only exceptional offers for Bruno Fernandes, etc. Why are they doing that? Are they getting told to do that by someone who should be cutting his grass? Strange concept, isn't it?
I mean, it's not overly difficult, is it? I think even if you're a bit dumb, you can figure out that they need a rebuild.
Yeah.
But their recent signings, again, you've got an aging Casemiro whose legs have fallen off. They've recruited Ericsson. Like, we wanted Ericsson, and they just went, "No, we'll just double his wages and put him on 200 odd K a week." Anthony was a ridiculous piece of business. Martinez hasn't set the world alight. Man United can sing till the cows come home, but they're paying the highest amount of wages in the Premier League. Their wage bill is astronomically high. It's outrageous. And the way they play, the way they behave, the way they talk, the arrogance, the sense of entitlement, the big club they're not a big club right now. They're absolutely not. The only thing that you can consider them being a big club for is, they won the Carabao Cup last year. Fine. They're in another final this year. So they are in that bracket of the better clubs in the league. Again, I think people get very scared of playing against them. I think that helps a lot. I think the only sense of why they're a big club at the moment is just global fan base, because they've had such success throughout history. They have a lot of eyes on them and a lot of support from all around the world. But in terms of the structure of the club, how they play, they're absolutely not even close to it. We've seen Brentford, Burnley, Bournemouth absolutely play them off the park. Not that hasn't happened to us either, but we haven't got kind of the history of Man United in recent years. So, but yeah, Dan Ashworth potentially cutting his grass. So I'm not sure that's come from him. I don't think it particularly matters. Man United always a big club. They're not at the moment. They're absolutely not.
Only they're not. Historically, yeah.
You've got the big six need to pipe down a little bit, because you're going to have potentially. We finished fourth last year, and Villa are potentially going to finish fourth this year. So you've got 2 seasons on the trot. 2 people outside of the established elite finished in Champions League places. That needs to be counted. You've got West Ham winning European trophies. You've got it's changing. It's changing. They're going to have to pipe down, because there are other clubs that are doing well and are beating them in Premier League fixtures, winning some trophies, qualifying for the biggest competitions. They can't keep giving it all the time, because it's people are doing well. They need to credit that. Anyway, I'm bored of talking about Manchester United because we don't care about them.
Distinct possibility that Chelsea doesn't get European football for the second season on the trot as well, and they're of course part of the Cartel 6.
Exactly.
Isaac, what I want, says Aston Villa voted against it because their wage bill is so high. Yes, that's a good point. They are in kind of FFP kind of problems, aren't they, at the minute? The rumours are that they are being looked at, as so as we. Apparently so are we, but nobody knows. As long as we don't buy any of them, says Bath about Man United players. Yeah, absolutely. Probably making it public knowledge for clubs coming for players, yes. They will not sell a lot, of course they won't. Shane says, if anyone knows better, please tell. But I'd imagine that for UEFA rules, you pick players that only make up the 70% rules. That would mean you might have to leave certain players at home.
I'm not sure that's how it works. You can't just pick people to suit that. That's not how it works. It's done as a collective. So the problem is with this is I don't think it makes loads of sense. We can't go massively against what UEFA are doing. Otherwise, we can't play in UEFA competitions, and people want to play in the Champions League. So it might give you a bit more wiggle room. But then if you do overspend to try and get into the Champions League places, you've got to rein it back to be able to play in the competitions. So,
yeah, indeed. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. Trolls asks, what kind of pull does Dougie have, though, to be fair? I'm going to say the fact is that if he does get employed by Newcastle United, he's going to have a bloody good kind of backing behind him, isn't he? It's not necessarily the pulling power. I mean, how many people know of Dan Ashworth, for instance? Or, I'm not sure that the pulling power of the technical director, what he's got is a war chest of money in his pocket and the wherewithal to send scouts wherever he wants to look up good talent, isn't it? I mean, it's not about pulling power, really, is it, Stato?
A little bit, but he's been in this game a very long time. Let's go from step one. So, unfortunately, I am going to have to bring up Man United again. It pains me to say so. They are interested in him as well for a different role. They want to bring him in as their head of recruitment. So they would want him to take in technical terms, a step down, I guess, if it's a step down. Obviously, you could still probably get more money. So that he's being touted as the head of recruitment, with Dan Ashworth being the technical director and someone else being a sporting director. They basically, I've watched a few videos on this, and it hurts. I had to watch it on double speed because they just chat so much nonsense. They're basically trying to bring in best in class across all of their sort of. It's obviously it's not board. It's the upper staff level that are in charge of all the running of the club, operations, recruitment, all of that kind of side of it. They're looking at pinching the best from everywhere, basically pretending that they've done it themselves. Everybody else has kind of set this up, and they are trying to cherry pick people. And that's essentially it. But whereas we would be wanting to bring him in not as a head of recruitment necessarily, but as a technical director, sporting director, he would be in charge of everything, not necessarily just recruitment. So we would want a lot more from him. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if Man United are going to get him for that role. We'll see. But again, we're fighting them about something else, which is really irritating. Not only that, Simon Jordan mentioned him last week because obviously Man United were linked with him then. So Simon Jordan's got some very positive words. And to be fair, I know a lot of people don't like him, but he knows a lot more about Palace than we do. So you might as well listen to him. He's stated that he's a good thinker, a good spotter of talent, and a good negotiator. He's also said that he was the manager of Palace when they recruited players like Bolasie, and he thinks that Ian Holloway got too much credit from that sort of era of players and recruitment. Simon Jordan is under the impression that a lot of that was done by Freedman, and he doesn't really get any of the credit for it. And that, I'm not saying that, that's Simon Jordan saying that. So he does say that player recruitment is his best skill set, maybe not necessarily everything. And yeah, so that's the Simon Jordan stuff. So in terms of talent ID, I think this is what people do need to be. Hang on a minute, I do need to read something because this is essential. Yeah, okay, cool. So there's a lot of people complaining about recruiting lower level players, or potentially, players from the Championship, or players. There's a lot of hate out there for recruiting down. But if you look at his recent talent ID is the buzzword that gets thrown around all the time. Talent spying, talent ID. So his recent recruitment, and people did say earlier, I think it was Tristan who mentioned this earlier, that he didn't recruit Elise and Eze. I mean, he was part of the structure that did. So, I mean, he did. He was part of that. Elise, for £8 million from Reading as a 19-year-old, a pickup from the Championship. Everybody is quite confident that Elise would probably fit in the Man City team right now. So he's a very good player from the Championship. Nothing wrong with him. Eze, of course, a lot of people do remember him from his QPR days. He was definitely dubbed as, I mean, I remember him at QPR. He was insane. They picked him up for a little bit of a more hefty price at 20 mil. But if anybody's selling Eze now, he's going to be way more than 20 mil, to be completely
honest. 3 times at least, wouldn't he? Yeah, I'd imagine 60. You're looking at 60 million.
You've got Mark Guehi, 18 mil from Chelsea. Reasonably steep. But again, he went on loan to clubs like Swansea, clubs that were in the Championship at that time. So they recruited him based on data from his Championship games. And he's a really good player, broke into the England side as well.
Yep.
He's a decent player. You've got Adam Wharton. Pains me to say, we've looked at him in transfer shows, has gone there from Blackburn Rovers. I think Adam Wharton's also going to be a top level. We've seen him recently. He looks a fantastic player. Yep. And again, at £22 million, I think it's rising to £22 million. If they go to sell Adam Wharton, do you think they're taking less than 22? Absolutely not. They're going to ask for double that. You've also got Czech Decore from Lens, the Racing Club de Lens, for about 18-ish mil as well. So recruited from abroad. Really, really tidy midfielder who's been competent in the Premier League, probably well above competent, to be fair to him. You've also got a couple of smaller pickups. Malcolm Ebiowe, I'm pretty sure that's the kid who came from Derby. Could be wrong.
I think it is.
Pretty sure that we were linked with him as well. Palace picked him up. Johnston as well. He never gets mentioned, but he's always in the England side. Can't Johnston be that bad.
And Henderson, to be fair.
Yeah, and Henderson as well.
Tyrick Mitchell, another one.
Tyrick Mitchell. I mean, I think he came through the academy, didn't he? So that's potentially development. I don't know how much he's got into. I mean, he's part of the entire thing. So, when you start looking at academies and how they progress through, that's something that we would need as well. But the recent track record of the last 3 or 4 years is sensational. There have been a few hits that, well, a few misses that I say not hits. So you've had, was it Sorloth? Sorloth was the player who ended up going to Leipzig because he didn't quite work out, unfortunately. They had Meyer as well, who came from the Bundesliga, Max Meyer.
Yeah.
Did he play? Was he the one who played for PSG a little bit? I can't remember who Meyer played for now, but Meyer was a highly regarded player who came to Palace. We were expecting him to light up the Premier League because I remember us all thinking at the time, how have they managed to get Meyer at Palace? It didn't quite work, unfortunately. But again, most of those picks, and even looking back, were reasonably safe picks. They didn't overpay. They were sort of 8-9 mil for some of these. Didn't quite work. They've sold them and they managed to get, it was Schalke. That was it. Thank you, Foxy. It was the Bundesliga, I was right. But they've managed to get a reasonable return if it's not worked out. I think they got basically all their money back when they got Sorloth off to Leipzig, I think it was. So the last 3 or 4 years...
in Spain, didn't they?
I can't remember now.
Games in Spain.
But the last 3 or 4 years, solid recruitment, really, really good.
And you could add Edouard to that, Mateta, both.
Again, largely considered to be not the best picks. Mateta wasn't super rated, and now he's kind of developed, he's learning, and now he's really, really doing well in the Premier League. I mean, we know that because he scored against us, so you can see his improvement. And
of course, Munoz, the right wing back, he was outstanding against us, wasn't he? And he's been outstanding since he came. Anthony says Dougie had a playing career also. Ashworth didn't. And a managing career as well, a managerial career. Let's not forget that. Ashworth didn't also. Not always the issue, but he'll have plenty of experience and connections. I tend to agree with that. I don't think this fellow is kind of, behind the other people in the list for me. With what he's done, okay on a smaller level. But I had a plumber, not a joke, that was a Man United fan. He called Casemiro Casemires. I think he was a secret fan of Guimaraes. There you go. Interesting one there. Casemiro. Man United fans just haven't got a clue, have they? Even Goldbridge doesn't rate Casemiro. Well, he's playing at centre half at the minute, isn't he, Casemiro? They're that kind of desperate for centre halves. Yeah, he's having to play centre half, and he's been found wanting many a times. The Ruffied Benishan says the key with technical directors is the connections they have with agents and clubs. Indeedy. What else we got here?
Not always. Not always, because a lot of their role will be recruiting underneath them, making sure that you've got the right analysts, scouts, structure, the academy's in shape, you've got all the right things in place, all the cogs are turning. It's more than just who your connections are, because Man United keep bringing in people. A lot of these top clubs that are failing are bringing in people who've got loads of connections. It's not always about that. It's also to do with the structure of everything else. I think they're both just as important.
Yeah, so after he finished his playing career, he then became manager, reserve team manager at Palace. That was in November 2005, when he was still playing. He was there for a while, and then he became the manager after retiring in March 2010. He was the assistant to Paul Hart with John Pemberton, another Palace ex-player, right back, as the first team coach. He then took over the job after George Burley failed there. Caretaker manager. He was the first choice to replace George Burley was a certain fellow called Edward Howe. Yeah, that's interesting. But Freedman got the caretaker job, did pretty well, was made permanent, and he brought Lenny Lawrence as his assistant and Tony Popovich as coach. He got Palace out of the relegation zone, achieved safety with the game to spare, and they began the next season looking pretty good. That was Division 1, actually. That wasn't the Premier League. That was the Championship. They got to they was in the playoffs, a good win in the League Cup. They knocked out Man United under his tutelage. They ended the season 17th and then got sacked. So he knows Palace really well. He's played there, he's coached there, he's managed there, he's now technical director. That kind of, let's think of the word for it. The fact he's been at the same club and done all those roles, it makes him a good kind of fit for us, doesn't it? The experience of it.
Yeah, I mean, let me read a bit from this Athletic
Yeah,
article,
yeah,
because it kind of ties in with exactly what you're saying in terms of structure. So they've written, so Freedman is a ferociously hard worker, watching around 150 matches a year around the globe. He is not a one-man band when it comes to identifying and procuring talent. No club can afford to be in an age when the transfer market has never been so hyper-competitive or globalized. It is when Man City are signing 14-year-olds, it gets a bit difficult. That's not the Athletic saying that. I'm saying that. So, since returning to Palace, Freedman has brought the recruitment and analysis department together under one umbrella, and the number of staff involved has increased from 7 to 13. It took him about 2 years. He's got 2 first-team analysts, 2 data analysts, 2 performance analysts, and a head of performance and recruitment. He's bumped that up to 13. And he lists a few of them. So he's brought in some interesting characters. So data analyst James Simpson, who is an astrophysics graduate. You've also got Bobby Shojai, who is a graduate of the London School of Economics. And he's also, so Palace's head of performance and recruitment analysis have mentioned about Freedman that he won't watch any videos or analyze football itself. It's purely on the data. And then Bobby specifically, the Shojai guy. So yeah, his background is in finance. So he brought in basically super clever people to literally dig into certain areas of recruitment and data analysis. So it gets better than that, though. So it just goes beyond data. I know a lot of people don't like the statistics necessarily. It's not just data driven; it's everything. So academic backgrounds are prized. Unsurprisingly, given Freedman's preference for the initial recruitment process to be entirely data-led, with emotion removed from the process. So it's all data when you're looking at the initial recruitment stage. You have to look at the numbers. And then, so Simpson and Shojai are tasked with analysing which players fit into the culture of the team. There you go, culture of the team. We're very important about that as well. We love that. While that includes personality, it is about their role and how they would improve the squad on the pitch. Once players are identified, Freedman and his scouts begin watching them in person, analysing not just their performances, but things like body language, psychology, before decisions are made and conversations are had with Parish and the board. So they completely go through the entire process. Numbers, they whittle down a pool of players. If they want a fullback that is good at crossing, physical, wins his aerial duels, can do this and that, is a rough age bracket, they will go and find 200 of those that fit that profile, and then they will go and start factoring in culture, appropriateness for the squad, just all of everything they would need, and then they will go and start watching those and slowly whittling them down. So his recruitment is hyper detailed.
yeah. I mean, people are kind of not liking him basically because of what we've done before. I think a lot of people are saying that Mitchell's is the standout candidate, and I could understand that. But still, I mean, this kid has got. Look, I say kid. He's this fellow's got lots of
He's
talent.
49 now.
Yeah, he's only 6 years younger than me. So,
well, he's younger than Mitchell.
Kid.
I'm pretty sure Mitchell's younger than 49.
Is he?
Isn't he? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. But this fella's got longevity. We spoke about Mitchell. He tends to only stay at one place for a couple of years, isn't he? Whether this one,
yeah, he's 42. Paul Mitchell's 42. So
younger than younger. What else we got? Sancho's going to be amazing next year. That's a different kettle of fish altogether. That's not one I'm reading that. As John said, I'm a bit concerned in the delay of getting a global scouting network, feeder clubs, a better academy and training ground setup. I know these things take time, but they are needed. I'm guessing that's going to be part of this bloke's remit, isn't it? I mean, this would have been Dan Ashworth's remit, wouldn't it? Except it's been put on hold because Dan Ashworth is going. So whoever comes in has got all that to deal with, hasn't he?
I missed a bit of that. Sorry, I was prepping the next bit.
Yeah, people are talking about, whoever comes in has got to kind of set up a global scouting network, feeder clubs, a better academy, training ground setup.
There's a lot to do.
These things take time, but they are needed. They are indeed. But it's been delayed basically because Dan Ashworth's left.
Yeah, but I can't imagine everything's going to change necessarily. That there's certain things that get put into place that can remain. such as a general identity and culture and way of playing around the first team that can then be sort of, echoed down to all the youth seat sort of teams and setups. I appreciate that doesn't always work. There's been a lot of controversy in sort of coaching world about you shouldn't make all the youth levels play the same system as the first team, because then when the manager gets sacked, they've never played a 4-4-2, they've never played this, and it's been a weird conversation recently. But yeah, there are certain things that we will have started implementing that we will retain, that's quite basic and fundamental, that we will have improved based on what we had under Mike Ashley. But yeah, some of it we'll have to rip up some of it and start again. But I mean, that's fine. It's normal.
Foxy, I didn't know Foxy was an ex-player. He says, John Pemberton was my coach at Forest Youth. He loved having a go at me. He was a right back, wasn't he, for Palace and Sheffield United. I remember him at. It sounds like he didn't like you, Foxy, very much. If he's having a go at you, unless he expected more of you, I guess. People are talking about Sandro. That's kind of 6 games away, they're saying earlier in the chat.
Again, as long as it doesn't get extended.
Rather have another one saying rather have Mitchell. What else we got here? Yeah, I saw that, Clarky. Yeah, people are talking about Tonali. 6 games. Baz says it's no for me. He's okay, but not inspiring. Stay with Palace. What's the next piece going to be about, Sto? Who are you going to quote next? What's the next part?
Well, he had some time at Bolton
as a manager. Yeah,
there isn't really a lot of. There's not a lot of quotes from him. He doesn't tend to do much. He's quite a private person. There's not a lot of the Athletic articles and people's pieces about him are from other sources. A lot of people have mentioned things about him anonymously because they don't want to kind of, burn their bridges with him. So there's not too much from him specifically. But there's a bit about his time at Bolton. So Freedman worked with a highly respected team assembled by Sam Allardyce, funnily enough, who back in the day was one of the pioneers of getting data into football. I don't know where it all.
Stuff, yeah.
Don't know where it all went wrong for him because he started off so well. So absorbing information from the likes of Lee Sargison, I think is how we're saying that, who is now Everton's manager of scouting operations, who I think maybe needs to do a better job because. And Brian Prestige, Prestige, who subsequently became the Director of Intelligence and Data Insight at the City Football Group. Interesting step up there.
Yeah.
It does kind of go on to talk about, obviously, Palace don't have a lot of money, budget's very low, and then what his general recruitment is like. So recruitment staff apparently asked 29 data-led questions around potential new signings to whittle down a long list of thousands of possible options to a much smaller shortlist of dozens. The in-person scouting process then takes precedence.
That is interesting.
So a lot of what we've got about him is very much based around recruitment scouting. Obviously, there's been a lot of emphasis on data analysis and stuff like that. However, it's not the whole thing. We do need to start, there's not really anything here about youth or academy stuff. I've not really been able to find a lot about that. Again, I've not spent weeks researching this, albeit it has been a few hours, but I do have a full-time job, guys. Sorry.
And it has only come out in the past couple of days, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you want me to do weeks of research, keep supporting the channel and then we can do this all day. But at the moment, we don't get as much time to do this kind of research. But most of it is typically on the recruitment and what he's done in recent years. Obviously, we're going to need a lot more. We're going to need an entire overhaul. We do have people that are pushing into operations and marketing and sponsorships. We've got people for those roles already with Silverstone and Darren Eales. We've got some, but recruitment fine. But we do need to also have a look at the academy because we do have an issue at the moment with a lack of homegrown trained at club. This is one of the reasons I'm pretty sure why Gillespie keeps getting 1-year contract extensions, which is inexcusable and needs to stop very, very soon. Again, I'm really sorry, Mr. Gillespie, if you've ever watched this show. I'm sure you're a lovely person, but you're not ever playing any competitive minutes and you're taking £40,000 a month out of the wage budget. And I just feel like there's better use of that. But he's here because he's homegrown trained at club. unless I'm wrong, but nobody seems to be able to prove otherwise. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's no
we
other
need
reason for it.
youth. It's the youth academies do need improving. We look at what we've done in the last 2 years. We've had to just poach a bunch of kids from Ireland and other places just to try and prop up our academy, basically, because it's not good enough. And all of the people we thought were good enough are all going.
He's got Max Thompson as a youth goalie, hasn't he? So whether we could have promoted him and had him as third choice, as a homegrown youth, trained at youth level, rather than have, he's never going to play either, so what does it matter? Ryan says, Wiki didn't say where Freedman was DOF. What's his previous experience as a director of football?
Palace.
It's been Palace, yeah. Basically, after Bolton, he went to Forest. He took over the job from Stuart Pearce. Ultimately failed there also as a manager. He was there just over a year. Went back to Palace then as a sporting director. That was in 2017, and he's been there ever since. He had a big role in taking Patrick Vieira back to Palace as manager. He secured the loan signing of Conor Gallagher. And of course, Mark Gahey and Michael Elise, all part of his kind of, as we've already said, recruitment strategy. So he's got a good record, hasn't he? There's
a few people bashing the choice. I'm not saying it's my first choice. It's not, but he's a very good option. I personally think he's a really, really good option. There's a little bit, there's a few question marks about the full extent of what he can do. But there's no questioning his recruitment, and that sort of setup is first class, which is one of the reasons why Manchester United are looking at building a kind of super team of senior staff members, whatever we're calling that. And he's one of the top of the lists for because they were actually this guy was in the running for technical director as well, and it looks like they want Dan Ashworth, but this guy was actually in the running for technical director for Man United, and now it looks like they want him to just be a recruitment head of recruitment. So he's very highly rated by a lot of places. So I think people maybe aren't giving him the credit. He's very, very good. But like I said, question marks over sort of academy and the full structure.
Yeah, interesting. I think he'd be a good asset, a good acquisition, if I'm honest. Seems like Man United are trying to hoover up all this kind of talent, doesn't it? I mean, they've got Jason Wilcox also.
Well, it's the again, I hate saying it, but they're all stating they're trying to build a team of best in class. They want to have the top of the top, the best of the best, structuring the overhaul of the football club in the best technical director, the best head of recruitment, the best of this, the best of that. They're trying to undo 10 years of damage. And it's a lot of damage. So,
yeah, there you go.
Mark Gillespie's joined us in the chat.
Has he? Oh, terrific. Let's have a look. Must be well down the bottom here. Let's have a look.
It's down there.
I work very hard for my 40k a week. I'll have you know, pal.
Now, Mark, if I Google your name, is that going to be one of the first pictures that comes up on Google Images by any chance?
And he's a member. Fair play to him.
Oh, thanks, Mark, for the... funnily enough, Mark, it's funny how your picture is the first one on the transfer marked image.
Brilliant. Jam Status says my top three for DOF: 1 Mitchell, 2 Stato, 3 Maldini. Oh, there you go, Stato. You get second. I'd have Stato top. Fox says Dougie would be the safe option, but that wouldn't be on the first choice. But he's experienced and learned from his early mistakes in the role. Yeah, I guess so. I quite like him. I must be honest.
He's not my first choice either, but he's worthy of investigation and potentially interviews and going through that process. Let's not forget, everyone, Eddie Howe was not top of that list, and he's been great for us.
Yeah,
he's well exceeded what people thought he could do. Some people think he has a limit. Fine, fair enough. But you've got to give people the opportunity and let them kind of pitch themselves. And that is if he wants to pitch himself. Maybe he doesn't want to leave Palace.
Mark's also come back, I'd imagine so, and then he's got a laugh underneath. So he then says, I had to put it together quickly. I wonder who it is. I'm sure we can find out. Very good, though. Very good. Enjoyed that. This club, man, says Anthony, this summer will be a massive transition with a new DIF. Adidas club shop, players in and out, massive summer. It is, isn't it? It is a huge summer, and for a new director of football, it's a bit of a daunting start, isn't it? It's lots of things to get on with straight away. It's not like he's got time to bed in.
Doesn't matter. If anything, it's better because it's gonna breed winning and success. Let's get the lemon back out. The lemon of success. Eddie Howe came into this role. He turned down Celtic, which was 3 trophies, and he went for us, and we were odds on going to get relegated. He went, nope, I'm going to go for a club because the ceiling's way higher, and I'm going to try and fix the burning down ship and build something. So with that in mind, I think whoever takes on this job knows that obviously it's just been through a bit of a funny phase where Dan Ashworth started something and then kind of left. So they're going to have to pick it up and run with it and try and pick up what was useful and put their own spin on it. And I think it's a great opportunity. Again, I think everybody knows, well, maybe not. I mean, we know that this club's got unlimited potential now with the money behind it. We can constantly improve sort of marketing, sponsorship, investment in the club. It's going to go up and up and up because we can commit to that more than other clubs can in the league. A lot of people in the general media don't seem to think we're a problem, but I think we are. Amanda wants to win the Premier League in the next decade, so
there's rumours that Paul is Mr. Gillespie. Clarkey quickly said, "Not me," as if he was accused after he admitted it wasn't him, which is strange. There you go. So it could be Paul. That his favourite so far. Sato, who would you choose?
Oh, big question. I don't know. Is my question? Is my answer? I genuinely am not sure.
They've all got positives and negatives, haven't they? I mean, for Mitchell, the negative for me is he doesn't tend to stay a place too long, and we need a proper 5-year rebuild, really. To get it all set up. I don't think 2 years cuts it. That's the negative for me with Mitchell, but he's got loads of positives. Maldini, he's got negatives too, hasn't he? The other way it ended acrimoniously at Milan.
He's more of a player with connections, though, whereas Freedman's more of a proper analyst and recruiter.
And Maldini also had the fellow doing the work for him in Maldini's name, kind of. I'm not sure about the Portuguese ones, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't think I fancy any of them. To me, it's down to Mitchell, Maldini. Who's the other one? Friedman.
Giles.
And Giles. I quite like Giles.
Thiago Pinto as well was mentioned. There's a few others, a few names.
Yeah, Braz. There's Braz as well, isn't there?
I think, in my opinion, I can't give an answer because I would prefer what the club are going to do. They're going to interview them and then make a decision. I can't do that, nor can we. We're going off Wikipedia, Athletic, YouTube, and their general history of player signings. That's what everybody's doing. We're fans, we don't have access. We can't call agents or ex-players and go, "Oi, how was he to work with?" We don't have that luxury, unfortunately. So we've just kind of got to go with our general information. I think a lot of them are really, really good candidates. I think a lot of them are all ready for that next step up. I think Mitchell's probably already had a couple of steps up. Mitchell's potentially ready for a job at one of the best clubs in the world. He looks like that is his next move. Whereas Giles and Freedman and stuff have definitely built up a really interesting CV and they're ready for another step up themselves. So Maldini, I'm less so sure about. A lot of people like Maldini because of who he is. I don't think he's got what it takes in the current game to do everything required. I think there's so much that needs to be done. I'm not confident he's got it.
Anthony asks, "Can you do a poll?" We can't, unfortunately, because we're not in charge of the YouTube page where the polls are set up. But maybe we'll do one in the short term, in the near future. I'm not sure. Unless we get linked with another DAF. This may be the final one, mightn't it, Stato, I guess? think we've done all the
I like what Peter Salmon's just mentioned. Can we get both Mitchell and Freeman? Yeah, I mean, double his salary and make him head of recruitment, and then bring Mitchell in as a sporting director. Absolutely. But they've probably got they've both been recruiters, and they've probably got very different styles. Would they get on? Would that even be feasible? Very tricky to kind of even execute that. Oh, Dortmund's DOF. Well, their old one just left. We got linked with him a while ago as well, but his name's gone dead for some reason.
Yeah, Lemon of Success sounds like something off Vic and Bob's Shooting Stars. Yeah, the door from above. Whoever comes in has to squeeze the lemon of success.
They do indeed.
I'd like to know how much money we could spend in the summer before selling any players. We always seem to be blindsided, though. Well, no one knows, Michael. The last thing the club are going to do is release how much we could spend, because it kind of gives the clubs the heads up, doesn't it? We don't want that, do we?
Yeah, it needs to be on the hush-hush.
Roughly Abinition says, for me, Maldini is DOF with Mitchell as his deputy.
Never going to happen.
No,
never going to happen. I don't think Mitchell is in a position. Mitchell's got a far better CV than Maldini in terms of this end of the sport. Obviously not playing, but Michael Zorc, that was it, Foxy. Yeah, Mitchell. If anything, I think that's offensive to Mitchell. Mitchell's done far more as a director and involved in recruitment and director of football, and he's done it in multiple leagues across multiple clubs, and he's, you know, he was responsible for the Red Bull group across the planet, and he's done a lot more. Like Maldini's not done that yet. If he's ever even able to do that kind of stuff.
Well, looks like we're coming to the end of the show. We've done Dougie Freedman. We've done all of the kind of candidates. If any more come about, we shall do them also.
We haven't done Michael Zorc yet. I mean, we can do him, but his name's gone very quiet. So
yeah, but I guess it's going to be push comes to shove soon. I mean, we're going to appoint one in the very near future. You'd think, Stato.
Yeah, I mean, when does the season end? Mid-May ish. What are we now? I mean, tomorrow's May the 1st. Oh God, that's like 2 weeks away.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, if we've not recruited one in the next month, it's going to be a bit like, because obviously we need to get someone in, unless we've got an idea for our summer, and we're just going to commit to that regardless. But then what if we recruit somebody? Well, presumably this would happen within the interview process, right? They would say, right, this is, well, maybe they wouldn't. It's really tricky to know, guys. I think, we do need to try and get someone in the next couple of weeks, because there's a lot of variation on how the summer's going to be, depending on if we use them with it or if we stick to an original plan, if they're not going to like that. What if we recruit a director of football and they go, no, I don't like any of your summer plans?
Exactly, yeah.
But you can't give out all your plans to someone who you might not give the job to.
Exactly, yeah. It's
really tricky.
It is. And this is the current Dortmund DOF. I don't know what his name is, Tato. Well, I'll give it a go.
Stadtwerke Aktiengesellschaft.
Interesting.
I do not speak German, so I apologise to all the German people I just offended.
There you go. On that note, we shall end it. Thanks to all the viewers who've tuned in and watched the latest of our DOF candidates, and also to the mods who've kept the chat in trimmer in the chat. Thanks to Stato for his very much hard work researching Mr. Freedman. Thanks to you all for that. So until the next time we see you, I think it's the way the lads is tomorrow. But until then, that'll be Paul and Sam. Until then, I wish you all a very good rest of your Tuesday evening.
Away the lads and lasses.
Good night, folks.
Come back and check out some green.